Max Kerman from the Arkells back in the mix here. Max, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing great. We have an extended summer right now, so it's beautiful. I love it.
Pretty big tour here, the Big Feelings Tour. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we started in Halifax and Moncton, and we got our hero Joel Plaskett. He was opening up the show, so to be able to watch him play every night was such a treat. And in Moncton, there were these two people in the crowd that were wearing like wedding attire, and it turns out they got married in the afternoon, and then just rolled right into the show. And we brought them on stage for our first dance.
Always.
And yeah, we hit Kingston and Ottawa and London next, and there's stuff gonna happen there too. Like every time we go through any of these cities, like stuff happens. And yeah, I think there's you mentioned your son likes knocking at the door. There's a school in Ottawa that plays knocking at the door in the band class. There's like 40 kids with
Really?
ukuleles and guitars and drums. So we've been talking to them. Maybe we'll do something with them. I don't know.
That's pretty awesome. That song's got so many different layers and elements to it, man. I usually overplay a song, I get tired of it, and for years that one, my kids were driving to hockey or whatever, and it is nonstop, man, and they love it. So I think I'm gonna bring my 8-year-old. His first concert's gonna be you guys in Calgary, so we're looking pretty forward to
Bring them. It's pretty family friendly. I swear a little bit, but I can't help
So do
myself.
I. Don't worry.
Okay, cool.
Nothing wrong with that. Max, take us behind the scenes. You guys put on a kick-ass show. I've seen you guys a couple times, but
Mm.
behind the scenes of like the creation of a tour, I'd always like to
Mm.
know like what goes into that.
Well, we love putting together a show because it keeps it from being bored on our end. Because you can kind of tell when a musician's going through the motions, so we want to make the show a little bit more theatrical, I think, than most rock and roll bands, at least. So it's like, okay, what does the opening moment feel like? Because that's my favorite moment when I go to a show. I want to know like how is the band walking onto the stage. So on this tour, we tried something new, and like how do you transition from the first song into the second song? What are the ebbs and flows of the show? Like, when do you do an acoustic number? We have this Arkells branded payphone. It's like an old Bell payphone that we have stationed in the middle of the crowd, like on a riser, and we kind of interact with that during the show. We have like park hand lights. There's like a lot going on, and it's funny because the rest of the guys in the band and our four-piece horn section are like, bro, we actually have to play the instruments. I'm like, no, but we got stuff, we got places to go. We got to be interacting with people. Because I play a bit of guitar in the show, but I could kind of care less if I'm being honest. I'm just like, all right, what's going on out there?
Makes sense. Well, being on tour, I mean, I know what it's like to be on the road with a hockey team, and I'm always curious about, you musicians. What are some of the things about being on tour that you got to prepare for? Some of the positives, some of the negatives.
Okay, I'll give you one of each. I like the structure, and I don't want to compare myself to a professional athlete, but I am very regimented about my day when we have a show night. And I have to, if we're on stage at 9, I have to have my like dinner at like 4:15, or else I'll be like pissed because you want to be like eating and peaking at the right time. And I need to make sure I have 8 hours of sleep. I know none of this sounds like rock and roll stuff. Everyone's like assumes it's like Motley Crue or something, but it's like for me, if I tried to live like that, I would be like done after night 2. I just like don't have like the pipes to be able to like drink and like run on 2 hours of sleep. So I have to be good, like an athlete, I think. The negative is just lobby call, so it's like we're on a tour bus most of the time, but occasionally like we're staying in hotels, meeting in the morning. And I don't want to name names, but we did have two members of our band that were 30 minutes late for a lobby call in Halifax, and everyone's just waiting for them to get in the damn vehicle. And so, but that's just typical band stuff.
Favorite
Remind
venue to play in?
Favorite venue to play? Ooh, I mean, we've had some amazing nights at Budweiser Stage, in Toronto. But I mean, there's so many great venues. It kind of depends on the time of the year. Sometimes it's amazing to play like in a small little club in the middle of February. On the last Canadian tour, we announced a surprise show in Saskatoon because the Saskatoon wasn't on the tour, but we were coming through town. So we played for like I think it was like 150 people, and the show sold out in like 10 seconds or something. But it was just like that might have been my favorite show of the tour, and we were playing a lot of big rooms that one. So it really kind of just depends on the spirit of the room. But yeah, I mean, like it really it could be anything. There's so many good venues out there.
And do you notice a difference in venue from, obviously sound's a big thing when you're a band and playing music. Do you notice the different acoustics in the different buildings? I know some have good reputations, bad reputations. And if so, is Scotiabank, you know anything about what it does with sound? We've been talking about that a lot this season.
You know what? I've been to lots of shows at Scotiabank. Some sound amazing, some don't sound great, and a lot of it has to do with just who the front of house sound engineer is. And one thing I'm very proud of, our front of house sound engineer, Chris Kaplinski. He gets like rave reviews from everybody in the industry. So when you talk to the promoters or you talk to other sound engineers, everybody's like, you got a bang and mix, and it's because Chris is out there doing the dials. On our end, though, it's funny because we're just listening to ourselves through in-ear monitors. It's like being on a TV broadcast. Like you're just like listening to yourself that way. So I have no sense as to like how it sounds out there. I just know how it sounds in my own ears. And each guy in the band has their own mix in their own ears. So I'm having a great time all the time, as long as my ears are sounding fine.
How often you get to games at Scotiabank Arena?
Ooh, I pretty often. I get my schedule's so up in the air, but I seem to get invited a lot. I guess I'm an okay +1. I know some rich guys with like good seats, and so whenever they text me, I'm like, I'm in.
I don't doubt it. Well, speaking of being on tour and following the Leafs, do you get a chance to watch the games? And if so, what do you think about the start to these Maple Leaf season?
It's good. I mean, I'm excited to see what the new coach does. Apparently, he's a bit more of a hard ass, right? That's what I was reading in the paper.
Little bit.
Yeah, there's a little more defensive accountability. That's
Mhm.
one of the things we're talking about.
That's a
I
word.
don't know. I mean, it's so funny because there's already like a goaltending, like who's going to be the goaltender this season? It's like it feels like every Leaf season, it's like a very similar narrative. It's like some star is slumping. We don't know who the goaltender ought to be, and the team's going to be good. And I'm just like, let's get to the playoffs and cross our damn fingers.
It's so true. Like every year, it's like an 82 game trial run to get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. But so far, so good. Fingers crossed that continues. Who's your favorite player on the team? Is it an easy one like Austin Matthews? Who do you enjoy watching?
Well, I know a few of them a little bit. Like I know Morgan Riley a little bit because I know Tessa, his wife, and Morgan's a super nice, down to earth, great guy. Max Domi, I've hung out with a few times, and his reputation is like nicest guy around, and that's my experience too. And also identify with him as a Max. There's not too many of us out there. Mitch Marner, lovely guy. His wife Steph, I know a little bit as well. I don't know Austin though. I'd like to know Austin though. I'm very curious about Austin. He seems like he's a bit of a man of mystery, you know?
I could see that too. He's got his own thing going on, and I'm sure you could creep your way in there if you wanted to. But
Yeah. Women
speaking of
go nuts for him, it's always
oh,
interesting. They go
he's a
crazy for him.
he's a hard guy to pin down, I imagine. But when you were growing up, speaking of players, we just had the chance to interview Matt Sundin, and we
Mm.
dropped that here this morning. Obviously, a fan favorite for a long time. What was your guy when you were growing up, being a
Well,
Maple Leafs fan?
well, I did love Matt. I just read about his book. I get the Globe and Mail delivered to my house every morning, so I read the
Ah,
paper, and I know that he's got a new book, Home and Away, talking
yeah.
about shout out to that book, Home and Away. So it looks cool. So yeah, I love Matt Sundin. Obviously, Doug Gilmore. I met Doug a few times. Doug's like come to shows and stuff, and he's a really nice guy. But a little known kind of I think he's a defenseman, Rob Pearson. On the Leafs in the like early to mid 90s. He happened to live in a house behind my house in downtown Toronto. And like he gave us old game sticks, and we'd like knock on his door, and he was like probably like, will these kids stop annoying me? Because I probably was like 8 or 9 at the time. But he was always really nice to us. But yeah, I mean, there's who else is there? I don't know. I've gotten to know Paul Coffey a bit
Yeah.
over the years, and I've said this recently. Paul just sends me text messages every time Arkells are on the radio. And so he just takes a photo of his dashboard, and it's just the song playing. So I just have like a stream of text being like, why 108? Knocking at the door. Why 108? Come to late. I'm like, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. And we were playing with Joe Plaskett in Halifax. He's like, love Plaskett. Happen Now. What a song. I'm like, that's my favorite Plaskett song too.
Too cool.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle Dubas, you were close to him a
Mhm.
little bit, weren't you? He's moved on to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Are having a bit of a struggle fest there. Do you keep in touch with him, or
Oh
is
yeah, no, I love Kyle. I have so much respect and admiration for Kyle. And yeah, no, we absolutely keep in touch. And it's funny because I'm in a couple group chats with them, but most of it isn't hockey related at all. It's like some combination of like politics and I think you should leave sketches. Do you know
Sounds
that
like an
show? I think you
interesting
should
one.
leave. Yeah,
Yeah.
Kyle likes that show.
How about Nicky Nurse?
Oh yeah, you know what? I was just texting with Nick this morning because the Raptors are in town. The 76ers are playing the Raptors in a couple days to open the season, and yeah, I hung out with Nick. He had a golf tournament for his charity in Iowa, his hometown, Carroll, Iowa. So Nick said, "I want to play a set, and Max, you have to organize it." So we went down. A few musician buddies went down to Carroll, Iowa, which is like flying through Chicago, get to Des Moines, an hour and a half drive to this golf course. He's from a town of 900 people, and we jammed. I don't really golf, so I just hung out. But yeah, but Nick's great. Nick's amazing.
Hmm. Well, I mean, we talk all the time on this show about the Maple Leafs and what their goals are. Ultimate goal is obviously the Stanley Cup. As a band, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? What are you reaching towards as a band when you're at the stage that you're at?
That's a great question. And I think I've been thinking about this a little bit lately, and it actually again because I think there's a lot of actually similarities between being a band and being on a team because a band is a team sport. It's like everybody has their own sort of like responsibility, and there's the drummer back there who's got to hold it down like the goaltender, and like there's me in the front who's got to score some goals, and then there's that people got to set me up, right? Like there is, I think, and I say this as being like a lifelong sports fan where I really see the division of labor in a very similar way. And I guess to answer your question though, it's like you can dream about like, oh, wouldn't it be great to sell this many tickets or to get this many streams or like have these sort of like goals in the future. But the only thing you can actually do is be present in the day. And this as an athlete, like it's like you can't just say like I want to win the Stanley Cup. Like who cares about saying that? You have to like go, what am I going to do today? So for me today, it's like, okay, I'm thinking about some new songs. I love thinking about new songs. I'm thinking about how are we going to make the show in Kingston and Ottawa and London like really good this weekend. And like and there's like 10 phone calls related to that like this morning about like that present moment. So so I don't know. I think the other thing about it is like enjoying it, I think is really important. I think like finding ways to feel invigorated by it because the bands that don't stick around are the bands that are over it and are kind of done with dealing with each other. And like you need to have like youthful vigor in your work, even if you're a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old or a 60-year-old. Like the people that actually like stick around are like people that have that same sense of like go that they had when they were like 19 years old.
Yeah.
So that's my TED talk. Yeah.
I love it. Max, you're the absolute best. Thank you so much for doing this and enjoy the tour, man.
Thanks. Always a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews, we got clips, we got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.